All right, so in this lesson here, what we want to do is take a look at how we can create some basic objects inside of Max. Now, this is not going to be any kind of advanced lesson. We're just looking at simple geometry, you know.
Right, we don't want to scare anybody off just yet.
Not yet. Okay, remember, this is a beginner video to 3ds Max.
Right.
So, first, where do we need to go within the UI to create objects? Well, there's a couple of places. One, up here on our menu bar, we can come to Create. That's pretty simple.
Very
easy.
And
then the way Discrete's organize this is just, again, back to the word efficient. You know, do you want to create some standard primitives? You know, things like a box, a cone, a sphere, etc. Extended primitives, where we get into some really cool stuff.
Oh, I love extended primitives.
Oil tank, capsule, etc., etc. Do you need to create some sort of shapes, like a line, an arc, perhaps even text? Then we got things such as lights, cameras, and then finally particles for, you know, effects, things like rain, snow, etc.
Sure.
The other place is if we come over here to the command panel, which we talked about in the UI section of this VTM, the very first panel is the Create panel. Okay. From the Create panel, we did talk about there being various categories of objects that you can create. And by default, geometry is the first object type. And this is where we're going to be focusing in this particular lesson. We'll get into shapes, lights, all that good stuff a little bit later on.
Okay.
All right, so now with geometry, also as pointed out earlier, we have various subcategories of the geometry. Just like you saw a second ago with primitives and extended primitives, even particle systems, we found that up under Create. All right, so we're on standard primitives. So here's the different objects we can create. Creation tools. How do we use them? Well, simple. Let's go ahead and start with a sphere. I click sphere. Look what happens. The button stays depressed.
But we didn't create a sphere.
We have not created a sphere. That's right. In some applications, you click the sphere button and beep, there's a sphere.
Yep.
In this case, you get to drag out the sphere where you want it, which is great.
That is very cool.
We also have a bunch of options that became available down here on the Create panel as well, and we'll talk about some of these in just a moment. Now, while this tool is active, you will notice that my mouse pointer, which is normally a pointer as you see right now, see, it's just a regular mouse pointer.
Sure.
When you move it over the viewports, it's now crosshairs. Okay?
Ooh, shapeshifter.
Yes. What this is indicating to us is that now if we come in here and simply click and drag, we will create a sphere. As a matter of fact, here we go. Let go of the mouse button, and we are now done with that sphere.
Instant purple Death Star.
Exactly. Of course, the color will be different next time. It's all random and all that good stuff. So if you don't have a purple one, don't worry. All right, now, a few things to point out. First of all, the sphere creation tool is still active, meaning that if I had just created this and then I said to myself, oh, I want to move it, click, drag. I just created yet another sphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of beginners have a tendency to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, keep in mind that basically you need to shut the tool off when you're done creating the objects you want to create.
Right, just a quick glance over there at your command panel will let you know whether or not that object is still selected.
That's right. So now I can simply come over here, and if I hit undo, while it does indeed undo the new sphere I created, it does not put me in a state where I'm ready to move that sphere around. The sphere creation tool is still active.
Absolutely.
So how do we turn that off? Well, it's actually quite simple. Just in your active viewport, right-click. I say active because, remember, this is the active one. It's got the yellow border around. If I come over here and right-click, well, all I did was just made that viewport my active viewport.
Right.
But my tool is still active. Right-click in your active viewport, the tool will no longer be active.
How convenient.
Now, depending upon the tool that you're using, whichever object you're creating, the clicks may vary.
Right.
It's kind of like the fine print at the bottom.
Just a quick thing to throw in there, though. Right-clicking is the most efficient way to switch off your tool, but if you want to, you can go over there and click on the button again, and that'll also switch it back off.
Meaning that you can simply come over here like such, and then come over here like such, and then come over here like such. So basically, what Zach was getting at is no, that does not work.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Now, you can go over here and switch like this. You need to right-click to go ahead and cancel that thing. Okay? Now, as I was trying to get to just a second ago.
Before I so rudely interrupted.
That's okay. Depending upon the thing that you're wanting to create, the number of clicks will vary. With a sphere, you saw it was one simple click, drag, let go, we're done. Now, with a box, okay, here's an example of where something's going to vary. So I'll go ahead and click and drag, and what's happening at the moment is the length and the width is being determined by how I drag the mouse around. And you can see these way over here. You'll see these numbers right here changing. Okay, as I move this around. Now I will let go of the left mouse button, and now if I push my mouse up and down, at this point I'm now determining the height, and once I've picked the height that I'm happy with, I will need to click the button again, bink, to finish this particular object.
Cool.
Moving the mouse around at this point, again, I'm not doing anything that's going to affect this object, but I am still in a creation mode for creating boxes. Look, it's a little city, yay. Okay, sorry, I got carried away for a moment. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at something else. A lot of these tools, actually all of these tools, have a creation method, and they all basically have various ways that you can select from for creating object. In other words, in the case of a box, we've got two different methods. We've got cube and box. Well, right now I'm using a box, meaning that I can determine the length and the width, and that both the length and width can be completely different from one another, and the height can yet be different again.
Right.
So in other words, I can make a complete rectangular shape. See all these varying shapes? But perhaps I may need to make a cube. So I can simply select cube, and now when I click and drag, watch over here with length, width, and height. Ready? It's magical. Look at that. All the numbers are exactly the same. Simple enough.
Very cool.
Okay, once I've made that, of course, I can come over here and adjust these spinners myself and give it the particular shape or even type in the exact dimensions that I need. Okay? Easy. So, you'll notice as I click through these that there are different creation methods for every single object. Okay, so we'll go ahead and come back over here to box. Another thing that is nice to know is often you may be, well, not often, but let's say you're more of an architectural type person or you're doing something with a lot of accuracy involved. Well, if we come down here and expand the keyboard entry section, from inside here I can specify an exact X, Y, and Z where the center of this object is going to be. I can also specify a length, width, and height. So perhaps let's do something like 122 by 122. No, not that big. And with a height of 50. And then we'll make it at 0, 0, 0. That's fine. Again, that's where the pivot's going to be. And then I can come down here and hit create. Bink. Ta-da! How simple is that?
Very cool.
Okay, so you can go and punch exact numbers in, hit the create button, and there you go. And you'll always find that up under the the keyboard entry. Okay, now up underneath there we do have a parameter section, and inside the parameter section, since these objects are standard primitives, they all come with some sort of parameters for determining the shape of the object. In this case, we're going to be dealing with things like length, width, and height, where we can go in here and again dial in our exact numbers. We can also do such things as control number of segments. So if you look up here in a shaded view, or better yet, if I was to come down here and hit F4 to go ahead and turn on edged faces, then I could start adding additional detail in there. You know, let's say I was modeling something and I wanted to give myself enough detail to start out with, I can do that.
Exactly.
And then finally, if I wanted to, I can also generate mapping coordinates, which is something we'll be getting into a little bit later. But this is for applying some sort of texture to your object.
Cool.
All right, so kind of get the basic feel of how we can go in and start creating objects.
Oh, yeah. Now, do all these options change depending on what kind of tool you're using?
Well, absolutely. Think about it, Zach. A sphere has a radius, not a length, width, and height.
That's true.
Okay, good point. And stuff like perhaps we were building a cone. Radius 1, radius 2, height segments, cap segments, how many sides. It goes on and on. It really just does depend on what it is that you're creating.
Very cool.
Another thing that's really interesting to note that's up here in this object type rollout is the auto grid. Because auto grid's cool.
I love auto grid.
Let's say I was building a cone and I wanted to build the cone coming off of my sphere over here.
Mm-hmm.
I could come up here and turn on auto grid, and look at this. I get this little manipulator that's going to show where a grid, a reference grid, if you will, is going to be created, and I will be building off of that. So let's say I want something right here. The moment I click, look at that. See that little grid? So now I'm going to start dragging out a radius, start dragging out a height. I'll do another click. Now I'm determining my second radius. So do I want something big or something sharp? So I can come in here and just do a little click. Now I'm done. Perhaps I want to come over here and do something like such. Maybe pull that up and click again, drag down. There you go. Do you like my little guy I made for you, Zach?
The Madonna sphere.
Okay, I wasn't going to say that, but there you go.
Okay.
Now he's a little guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see as we go in here and we rotate around how we were actually building that on the sphere. So auto grid is really cool, okay, and it's going to respect everything. You can see we did it on spheres. Now we could even zoom in if I wanted to, and look at that, do it on a cone as well. So maybe I wanted to come in here and make a box on this cone for whatever, and just come in here and he's dragging nice and slow and very small.
But it is there.
There you go. That's a little bit better. I was just at a very weird angle. Okay.
Very cool.
Now, of course, this thing is rounded, so don't expect for your cube to suddenly start wrapping around it. That's not exactly going to work.
Right. But I mean, like, if you're building, if you're working on a building or something, like an actual city, and you need to build something on top of a building, this is a real quick, easy way to do it.
Or what if you had a garage with a bunch of shelves, and you want to start putting objects on those shelves?
Exactly.
How easy is that?
Very cool.
Okay, so we've looked at creating a bunch of objects. Another thing to go ahead and point out while you're working with object creation is the importance of naming your objects. This is critical. There's nothing worse in the world that I hate than when a student goes, "Hey, Buzz, could you please come and help me with this?" And I go over there and they've got 15,000 things in the scene. And they're like, "Something's not acting right, and could you please take a look?" And I go to select something, but it's so tedious because they got a billion little B parts. So I hit the select by name. I remember good old H hotkeys we talked about earlier. And I see box 01, box 02, box 9,991, 9,992. Don't do that to me. Name these objects. Name them something that makes sense, okay?
Yeah,
come on.
He punished me pretty bad for that one.
Yeah, we won't get into that, but yes. That when you're professional, be professional. When you're striving to become professional, be professional.
Absolutely.
Okay? So I'll go in here and let's just call this guy right here my sphere, okay? What a complex name, and sure enough, my sphere now shows in there.
But it's still a whole lot easier to find than it was a second ago.
Yes. I can also go about changing the color as well if I want to come in here and make it another color. Now, these are not actual materials that are being applied, and materials is going to be something that we'll be discussing at a later point, a later VTM. We'll be getting into those.
This is just something to differentiate in the viewport.
Exactly. Okay. And, of course, once we do apply a material, we will override this.
Right.
By default. So, moving right along, let's see, standard primitives. Again, I did talk about extended primitives, and you can go ahead and come in here and start playing with all of the different types. I'm not going to cover everyone because it's real easy to go in there and just simply click on one of these. You'll notice all the different settings you have down here. Be careful, though. Like in this case, I just noticed out of the corner of my eye as I was talking about different settings being available, I noticed that I still have that manipulator over there. Don't forget to turn auto grid off when you're done, okay?
Make a torus knot. Just make one torus knot and I'll leave you alone, I promise.
Yeah. I'm making one of these. So we
right.
go in there and just all the different settings that you've got available. It's just good stuff.
Okay, cool.
Okay? So anyways, you get the idea. Now, again, of course, it depends on what you're creating. You just select what you need to. So this entire scene right here, perhaps, we're really loving it and all.
It's a cool
scene.
scene.
Maybe we want to go put some lines in there, maybe we'll do a light. So do a target spotlight.
Right.
Again, I'm still creating something, right? So I've just created this guy right here, and let's see what else I want to put in there. That's good enough. So now we've created this incredible scene right here, and remember I showed you earlier up here from the main toolbar. We can come over here and we'll just do a quick render, and woo, look at that.
It's kind of like the Renaissance Center.
No, it does not. It's just little buildings and little eyeball sticking through with something stuck through it. Anyways, you get the idea. The whole thing is about just creating basic objects. And that's pretty much going to be it. It's going to wrap up this lesson here.
Very cool.
So thanks a lot, everybody.